The Simone Feiler Podcast, giving authors a platform. Welcome to the podcast.
Peter Adey and Brian Saul join me on the Simone Feiler Podcast today. We've just wrapped up the narration for the amazing and soon-to-be released audiobook, The Writings. This is a book with a message channeled through Peter from the divine. How amazing. The guys connected with me to do the recording, and it's been an incredible journey. I've got to say that, through spiritual wisdom and then some. So much to take in 5 days. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful to have you here. You guys have been friends for a long, long time. So how did you meet, and when was that?
We met in a weekend retreat, and we got put together in a process, and putting us together in that process, the connection took place, and from there it just grew, and it was just divine intervention again.
How old were you guys?
1990, that would have been probably 91, 92.
So what's that make it?
That's a while back.
Check my maths.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Maybe
a while ago.
30 few years ago.
30 few years ago, exactly, yeah.
Well, that is a long time.
Yeah.
You spent many years and you went to the United States, Peter. So why did you go?
I was invited to go. Brian and I, previous to me going, had basically connected with a spiritual path, spiritual family, spiritual group. And so part of doing that for me was to go and experience, because it was based in the United States.
Right.
So part of it for me was to actually go. I was invited, but I accepted the invitation, was to go and experience it more closely. And so I did, and stayed there 24 and a half years until I felt it in my soul, really, and had been feeling it for some time. But basically there was a very, very undeniable, strong feeling that I had to come back home. And I know that the major part of that was to organize the material of the writings and to look at getting it published and getting it put out there.
Did the writings come to you prior to going to the United States, or how did they come about?
Yes, prior to me going there in 1998, in 1995, same spiritual family, I went there for a retreat. So I was there for, I think it was like a 3 or 4 day retreat that I went to. And again, the experience of being in that retreat, there was a lot of, for me, new spiritual understanding, spiritual awarenesses for me to embrace. And one of them came in the form of an initiation, which enabled me to, and not just me, I mean, everybody, it was given to everybody who was involved in it, who was at that retreat, that enabled, I guess it opened me up to doing this particular meditation technique. And really, the writings have evolved from that, doing that meditation technique.
Right, okay, so they've been there for some time.
Since 1995, and initially it started out really simply, just practice getting out of the road and allowing. I guess it's part of a realization that, there is within our unconscious mind, because the unconscious mind, I believe, is connected to spirit. And so if we can just get the conscious and the subconscious mind out of the road, then...
Be quiet.
Exactly. Then, that would offer an opportunity for what is in everyone's unconscious mind. It's not just in mine. It's the unconscious mind, I believe, is the universal mind.
Yeah.
So we all have it. It's just whether or not it was this lifetime or just a series of lifetimes for me where I actually have been practicing this because it felt like it was second nature to me to do it.
All along, or just from that retreat?
I would say from that retreat. If it was before, it wasn't focused. I wasn't really tuned into it. I guess it was simply being in that spiritual environment that it just triggered it, allowed it to come forth.
How about you, Brian? When did you first find this spiritualism or, the awakening? And how do you relate to Peter's, work being channeled basically through him with the writings?
Indeed. My awakening took place quite a few years ago when I actually, first of all, I got a bit sick, and that you've heard the story or the saying that you get a tap on the shoulder, and then if you don't listen to the tap on the shoulder, you get a slap on the face, and then if you don't listen to the slap on the face, you get a Mack truck. So I was a little bit slow in recognising what was going on for me, but certainly getting sick, which is what I did do at the time, and followed by that I had this massive accident where I had a chainsaw to the neck and cut my jugular vein.
What?
Pretty serious.
That's bad.
It was bad.
Here you are, though.
Here I am.
That's good.
Here I am, still here.
That's got to be a good thing.
But
you got a message to share, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, there's a few things. I've had a big life so far, and it's only getting bigger. But no complaints. But what happened was that stopped me and made me just look at what I was doing, and it I was forced to look inwardly, and that inward gazing, that inward looking, that then opened me up to taking, actually the first step was taking responsibility for your life. That's the big one. Was I a victim there? And so in working on myself and working into, what was going on at the time, the lessons, for want of a better word, started to unfold, or I started to actually not unfold, but I started to recognise them. And so with that recognition came greater understanding, greater awareness, and then the journey, what I call the conscious spiritual journey, started to unfold, because we're all on a spiritual journey. It's how conscious it is. So that consciousness of that spiritual journey has really never left me, but it has varying degrees. It's not like it's all or nothing. There's levels of awareness, there's levels of consciousness. Yeah. And so that was the turning point. And then 3 months after getting sick is where I had the chainsaw accident. Right, and then that was pretty serious.
Yeah.
And then the doctor that got me out of the tree actually said, because it severed my jugular vein, and he said it came within a cat's whisker of my carotid artery. Well, it would have been over and out then.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it was a case of, here's the Mack truck.
Yep.
And so it's like you listen to the Mack truck or it's over and out. And so I did listen, and I did sort of get focused, and it did force me to look further and further inwardly, and that process is the starting point, really.
Did this happen while Peter was in America?
No, this was before. This was
just before.
Just before he left, and Peter was instrumental in assisting me to look inward. A few little prods here and there.
Yeah,
and as friends do.
Yeah,
it's like
nudge in the right direction.
Bit of slapping around a little bit, going,
why can't you?
What are you doing? So it was prior to that, actually. So
once Peter had started being the conduit, if you like, for these writings, did you share that with Brian over the phone or on the internet, or did you say, look, something weird's happening? Or
No. I mean, little bits and pieces of me being aware of what Peter was doing.
Yeah.
We used to talk about getting up at 2 a.m. and doing the process, and it was like, at the time, I wasn't prepared to get up at 2 a.m.
Right. You needed
I needed my sleep at the time. That was a bit of a turning point. But it was certainly nudging by Peter of, what am I doing? What am I looking at? And the burning question always was for me that played out was, why do we do the things we do? And that question that I used to ask myself through journal writing, through just discussions, through talking about spirit, talking about God, talking about becoming greater. Why do we do the things we do? What a
great question.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I'd encourage anybody to ask themselves that.
Yeah.
Why do we do the things we do? And it's a pretty simple question, but can be. But
That's
the
funny.
answers aren't simple, and
No, that's right. That's why I'm laughing hysterically.
and most people don't look at it. More and more people are now. Actually,
that's true.
Actually, because of the shift that's taking place, there are more people who are looking inwardly.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely.
I agree. Because I've been kind of on this level for quite some time.
Yeah.
I think 2012 in particular, with the end of the Mayan calendar, I think there was a lot of people that I met around that time that are talking about the end of the Mayan calendar and that where there's a spiritual awakening happening and stuff. And yeah, it resonated with you, I think, and there's more and more people that sort of information is resonating with.
Yeah.
So it's our ripple is getting stronger.
It is getting stronger, yeah.
But I want to talk about the brand new audiobook, obviously, the writings. They're in essence channeled through you, Peter, though you don't actually claim to be the writer.
Correct.
So-
I'm definitely not the writer.
Yeah.
The way it happens is that basically I do an alignment prayer, basically to put me out of the road, and it also puts me in a space where I'm able to connect with that space inside myself. I'm going to call it the unconscious mind space, the universal mind. And the way it comes is basically I wait until something comes, and normally, and it's always been the same, it is always like it starts with 2, 3, 4 words, and I just write them down, and then there's another 3 or 4 words, and then it may be a sentence or part of a sentence, and I write that down. And so basically I'm hearing words inside me.
Amazing.
And so I'm not the writer. I'm simply the messenger. Someone's telling me something, and they're doing it in such a compassionate way for me. I think it's definitely compassionate because don't go so fast. So they're just giving it to me like 3 words or 4 words or a sentence, and then I have no idea where a writing is going. I don't even know initially where it starts or how it starts. I just have to wait. And so, yes, no, I'm not the writer. I am a messenger. I'm just dictating what's coming.
The very first time it happened, like, how did that happen? What happened?
As Brian said, initially the suggestion was because of the veils between, our world here and spirit realms are really, they're thinner between the hours of 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. And so, there are definitely a lot of spiritual teachers and stuff like that will tell you, if you can get up in those hours and meditate, you'll have the best meditations. And so, it was recommended that, you do this at 2 in the morning. So that's, as Brian said, that's what I used to do. I used to just set the alarm and get up at 2. And initially it was only like, I think the first ones were like maybe 4 lines. And, just over a period of time, it just grew to be, half a page, 3/4 of a page. And then to the point now where, number one, I don't have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I can basically do it at any time. And the writings, as you know yourself, just by what you've gone through here, are a lot more than half a page. And
Yes, they are. It's 17 hours recording.
right. So, yeah,
So
they definitely have changed.
when they were coming to you, were you, meditating, especially for people that don't meditate or first get into it, the first thing I was taught about meditating was just say your name, like I am Simone, I'm Simone, and try in my mind and try not to think of anything else. Like I couldn't probably get it out twice without thinking, what am I doing? What the heck? Or some thought. So for you to have that power, like how you said you got yourself out of the way of that, that's intense meditation where you've obviously trained yourself to step out of that way, to let conscious or the unconscious mind come through.
I don't know that. I think that we all have come here in this lifetime, particularly those of us who are already awakening, because we're all awakening in our own way, at our own levels. But I think we came here from lifetimes where we had already practiced a lot of this. It's not like, oh my God, we've dropped into this lifetime and oh my God, what's all this about? For me, there was always a level of, I don't know, familiarity, comfort. There was definitely a desire to, oh my God, I've got to explore this. Oh my God, this is what life is really all about. And so, yeah, I guess we all grew up in a society, in a culture that did not provide that for us.
Yeah.
And I think that as souls, we hungered, we have to find it. We were driven to find it. And so I feel like I've had my experience of getting out of the way, but I think that, I'm certainly in terms of the spiritual family, and certainly back in the 90s, I knew friends who were in the Siddha Yoga movement, people who followed Osho and his spiritual path. Then there was Babaji. People were following him. People were, even in the 90s, I thought, and I believe it started back in the 60s myself, because I think that, the way that music changed, the peace movement, the anti-war movement, the music, the huge change in music, the lyrics of music at that time, I believe that was a huge window that was the initial...
The hallucinogenic...
Right. Absolutely.
Stuff at the time, the LSDs, the Beatles, that...
Yeah, definitely.
That was
mind-opening.
Opening, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that, that was the creation of the first window for the souls to actually start to be fed what they needed to be fed. Because, as I said, I believe we all knew that we were coming into a time on this earth where ignorance was
ripe.
Ignorance was everything.
Ignorance was it.
Right.
So
and
true.
So, I just think that my journey's not... I don't actually think my journey's unique. I just think that each of us, we all have this we came in with these incredible gifts, and we're all either using them or awakening to an ability to use them. And so, yeah, I just happen to be able to get out of the road and do this. But, part of me not feeling a need, I know we're doing this podcast, but it's like, I have said to Brian so many times...
I had to really struggle to get them to do this podcast.
Because it's not about me. I'm no different to... Yes, I'm the messenger here, but I'm no different to anyone else who's wanting to awaken and who's on their path of awakening. And the writings, yeah, they don't need a figurehead.
You were actually saying to me about it, that you're still coming to try and understand the writings and everything's new to you. So you see it as a separate piece of work that may have come through you, but not of you, obviously, that you are still, trying to, I'm not going to say live up to, but understand maybe.
It's basically, for me, it's like giving me a pathway. And it's a pathway that's actually aligned to the path that I've been on with the spiritual family that I've been with since, the early 90s. So it's not that the writings are separate. It feels to me like what's in the writings are, in some ways, just expanding. So I feel like it's a gift to me because I'm already on a spiritual path, and then the writings come along, and what they're saying in there is actually helping me fine-tune. And I think that's what Brian and I have talked about before, that he's noticed after 24 years of me being away that the writings have definitely fine-tuned me. Like what I can be aware of in myself and in others is because of, I believe, because of the writings that I can...
And your ability to get out of the road.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
That's an inner strength. And do you think you need to practice?
I think that we're all being... I think that's part of what is in the writings that we've done over the last 4 or 5 days, is that how many times did it say get out of the road?
Yeah, a lot.
A lot. And really the message of the writings is that, and it's not anyone's fault or blame, but we basically came in at this time when ignorance is everything.
That's
as you
right.
just said, it's it. And so if you want to shift from just the writings, this is the writings thing, is you are not only human. And then to help people understand that you actually are divine and you have a divine lineage, and that lineage is still with you. You're forgotten.
Yeah, that's right.
You just can't be aware of it because the cloak called ignorance is so fucking dense.
It's a heavy one. It's like thick.
Exactly. And it's like, so for me, it's like just helping all of us, and all of us understanding that the getting out of the road is really the message.
Yeah.
The message is, don't believe all of your conditioning. Don't believe all of your indoctrination. It's not who you are.
Don't believe everything you think.
Exactly. Let that go.
Yeah.
The human mind and the
You can
human
change
emotions.
your thoughts. I think that's what also was one of the first things that woke me up is, yeah, I won't go into all the details, but someone said to me, you can actually change what you're thinking. And I'm like, what? How can you do that? But you can.
Well, that's what the true nature, the writings keep referring to as the true nature. The true nature is happiness and joy, compassion and peace. Well, that's not only just an emotion set, that's a whole mindset different. So if you go to there and keep reinforcing that every day through spiritual practices, through aphorisms, affirmations, the more you do it, the more you say it, the more you become it.
Absolutely. So true. So what are you hoping that people, obviously you're trying to expand people's consciousness.
No,
well,
I'm not.
You're not.
No, I haven't been given any task. Okay. My task is simply...
That's the question.
I'm sorry. My task was simply to write down the wisdom and collect it. And then I took my task to my brother and friend here and said, I need help with this.
Right.
And with all his skill set, which is a perfect fit with mine, because he has skill sets that I don't have. I don't want to have. I'm not interested in having. He loves his skill sets. And the
so
writing needs his skill sets. And so basically we are two people who are on our own path of awakening, who have been gifted the material, and it's like all we have to do is give it to Deborah, give it to you, give it to Joe, and say, make this real to put out there. And you have all done it.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's been an incredible journey for me. And I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that obviously I had to say to you repetitively, it's so hard to go off on a tangent in my mind. I've got to remind myself I'm working here. But I'm really looking forward to listening to it again because there's a lot of deep thinking things that come up. You know, some of the questions I'd written down about who am I? I mean, you were saying, why am I doing this? Or what you said before, Brian.
Why do we do the things we do?
That's right. And who am I? It's such a hard... you know, in-depth, all-encompassing, overwhelming, but the writings are certainly a guide there to make
give clarity.
Yeah, clarity, liberating, freeing.
I love that you said that so many times, actually.
Yeah.
At the end of a writing, you say, oh my God, I feel so liberated. I feel so free. And that's really the purpose, is that I think that whilst we're kind of think that we're only human and we're just living our life in the drudge of ignorance, as the writings say, you know, whatever we do to compensate for the fact that we know we're not fulfilled in this, our soul is not being fed, our soul is not being allowed to have a say in who we are in terms of what would I really love to do, in terms of a life exploration, in terms of giving to life. What's my dharma? What is my destiny? What's my gift to give to the world? And I think that, you know, whilst we're in, oh my God, I've got to get a job, 9 to 5, whatever it looks like, do it and be it, that has to sit in the back burner because it doesn't seem like there's a pathway for it. Doesn't seem like there's a road that you can go down and actually uncover all of that. And I believe that the writings are basically a map of, okay, you're not just this, you're this. So it's like that last writing where it was talking about parallel lives.
Yes.
Where it's saying you've got your human life as the old consciousness of I'm just human, I'm only human. And over here you've got the new consciousness of my true nature self, where I am love. I exist within love, I am love. And the expression of that as happiness and joy, compassion and peace, preciousness of all life. You know,
that was a beautiful chapter. I loved that.
Yeah, that was really incredible. A beautiful way to finish the book. It was like I didn't really appreciate it until we just did it.
Yeah, amazing.
And I thought, oh my God, this is a perfect end to the book.
Yeah. And just that it's also saying you're not alone.
Yes.
And like I say that, even though maybe you are as the one whole, unconsciousness that everybody belongs to, that we're all, on this growth path, but we're not alone.
No.
You're connected to something that is giving everything to you.
Absolutely.
How did I go?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So I highly recommend when the audiobook, the writings come out, you listen to it and probably listen to it quite a few times. Get a journal ready, get things, ready to write down a few things.
Find friends, talk to people.
I wanted to also ask about, there seems to be something going on the planet, not necessarily with the awakening on that dimension, but also like on a third dimension where the cost of living, the housing crisis, the wars and everything, it's all coming to a crisis climax, really, that, we're going to have to go somewhere. And why not look into yourself and look into your own path rather than being hung up with what's going on telly? Just saying.
We would have all heard the saying, if you want your outside world to change, you have to change your inside world. This is a really good example of it. Just what you're talking about, that the answers lie inside of ourselves. When we find our peace, when we live in a state of compassion and love and joy, we affect people around us as a result of that. And the writings are all about just nudging our awareness in that direction constantly. to remember that the answers are inside of ourselves. And it's really subtle. And that's probably the hard part, that it is subtle. It's not like it's a black and white experience, although it probably lends me to my experience where I'm just reversed or very, very close to reversing prostate cancer.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, if anybody who knows PSA, my PSA went from 120 down to 0.7 in 5 months.
Wow. Power of the mind.
Well, the power actually No.
Okay.
Not the power of the mind. The power of getting out of the road and the power of...
This is a new message for me, getting out of the road. I love this.
The power of getting out of the road and the power of listening to the goddess, listening to the mother, that other divine aspect that we all have within us. And that...
What did that look like? From where you were to what did you do that we talked about?
I spent 3 years with my mind. That's why I pulled you up on the mind.
Yeah.
With my mind, because I have a strong mind. I spent 3 years using my mind and researching to find the answers to what was going on inside of me.
I can heal myself was where he was coming from.
Right.
I don't need to go down the pathway of Western medicine.
Yeah. Might be true, but certainly the... what's the word? Yeah, I didn't really expect to start talking about this, but...
Well, thank you
for sharing, matey.
Yeah,
perfect. It's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
The going back to it, there was a massive turning point where it wasn't working. The PSA wasn't reversing. I was feeling okay, but it wasn't really getting to the point. And it was, the writings talk about the goddess. The writings talk about the mother. So the question is, what does that actually look like? What does it look like to listen to the mother, to listen and to be aware of the goddess? What does that actually mean?
Yeah.
That would be a question that everybody would want to be asking themselves. And so what it took was getting out of my mind's way for a start and going, okay, because there's a saying that most people will be aware of, is the universe tells us what to do. What is that? What does that actually mean? The universe tells us what to do. In my case, it was about going with the flow. It would be suggested to go in a particular direction. Who's doing the talking? Is it the mind, or is it just listening to an alternate viewpoint and direction, i.e., the goddess, the mother?
The feeling.
And that's right, the feeling and the flow. And so that was a really big deal for me. It was, and I didn't think I could do it because I thought, I spent years, I was massively invested in my mind, in me working it out. But it wasn't the answer. The answer was to get out of the road, stop working it out, and go with the flow. And so that going with the flow...
Which looks like life providing you with an alternate, which is another direction other than what your mind is telling you and giving you.
Where did you feel that? Is it a feeling?
It is a feeling. Absolute
So
feeling.
where is that?
In the gut.
In the gut.
It's here.
It's
a gut feeling.
It's
that
a
old
feeling.
saying, it's a gut feeling.
Yeah.
That's your intuition. That's
Right.
going with the flow.
Yes.
And it has a voice. It actually, for me, it has a voice. It's like, when I say it has a voice, I told Bri, just to go back, don't forget anywhere where you're at, because it's perfect. But just as an example of what Bri's talking about, I remember when I was in the States, because I had a construction business there, and in the mornings I had a work van, but I couldn't fit everything I needed in the van all the time. So I would have certain things in the van, and then if I needed things on that particular day, I would take from the workshop and put it in the van. So many times when I'm learning this lesson, so many times I made the mistake where I'm cruising past my tools and I'll lock onto something and then I'll just keep walking past. And then, because I say to myself, no, I won't need that today. Even though my consciousness, my eyes, everything have locked onto it. So sure enough, go through the days. Oh, I did need that. And so to me, it's both a feeling, and it can be things like your eyes locking on something, like your intuition is pointing you in a certain direction. And it can be like, why am I stopping? Even in that moment to ask yourself the question, Why am I stopping here? Okay, that must be important. I don't know why. It's trust. Trust. I'll pick it up in any case and I'll put it in the van. Sure enough, but that took me years to actually watch my mind go nup, 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 nup. And eventually it's like, wait a minute.
Wow.
So,
Exactly.
So your case.
Well, in my case, it was, get out of my mind's way and just follow the flow, follow my intuition, and which we loosely talk about being the goddess and the mother. And so it's that.
It's because it's intuition. It's not the left brain that's running your life. It's actually the right brain that's running your life. And the right brain is your intuition. And intuition, there's a writing that'll be in one of the books that says the intuition is the mother mind. It's the mother mind. And it's the mind,
Breathe.
and it says it's the mind of life. It's not the mind of the human ego, which is this, I will control and manage everything for you.
And manipulate.
And worry. And
Totally.
all,
And that's the thing.
and all the problems.
Exactly. And that's if you...
Who put the brain in there?
Exactly.
Well, it's doing a fine job.
For what it's meant to do.
It's meant to do.
The functioning job.
Yeah.
It is.
But we're moving clearly through the writings and a lot of information that's coming out now. We're moving through that phase. We're awakening.
Yes.
We're moving to fifth dimension.
Yes.
And we've got to thank the likes of you guys. Well, not you guys at all. The unconscious mind that has worked through you guys with a little bit of help from me and Deb Fay.
Absolutely.
And the rest of the crew to get this out to more people
Absolutely.
who want to wake up
Absolutely.
and find out how beautiful it is.
Absolutely.
How beautiful is it? I mean,
That's
congratulations, Brian. Like, that's amazing that you've been able to step out of the way and come back from that. And if you can do it.
It's what I always thought. My dad taught me that. My dad used to say, if someone else can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And so that was some really good conditioning I had from my dad, which was about, you can do this. It's okay.
So, mate, do you want to talk about also how different you feel inside yourself when you do go with your intuition, where you do just allow life to bring what it is that you need to you, and you get out of the road and you recognize it and you go, thank you very much, and you go with it? How does that affected who you are?
Yes, this week's been a really good example, actually, of being incredibly content and happy.
Yep.
And it's that happiness and joy. And I have a great other business that is very kind to me, and that a combination of things, my relationships with my wife, which is beautiful and just becomes more beautiful and more incredible all the time. And so it's not just one aspect, there's lots to it. And in essence, it's, hate to just keep going over and over the one statement, but it's the getting out of the road is the most important part. Or surrendering is another way to describe that. Surrendering to the flow, surrendering to the mother, surrendering to the goddess, so I like to say.
Yeah.
And just doing that. It's not hard. It's actually, if it's not hard, why aren't everybody doing it?
Because they don't know yet.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
that's right.
Exactly.
That's
They
exactly
don't know.
right.
Yeah,
Because I was going to ask you, is the happiness that you feel once you discover this, and as you improve and find out more, just grows, doesn't it? Whereas before, I'm worried about the bills, and I'm worried about this, and I'm worried about that. And once you sort of free yourself from that,
Absolutely.
there's no need to be worried, and there's only reason to be happy.
Right.
Yes.
And do what you love doing. That's advice that I would give, that also is written throughout the writings, that whatever it is that you're good at, that you can spend lots of time, that it doesn't seem like you've spent any time doing, that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. It doesn't feel like a job or work at all.
Yeah. Amazing. It is so enlightening talking to you guys. I just want to burst into tears.
Thank you.
It's my favourite topic. I think
you.
I mentioned to you guys too that, you know, all the books that come to me at exactly the right time. And
Oh, right.
it's so wonderful, you know, having spent this week with both of you and hearing the writings, looking forward to editing it and... then investigating and delving deeper. So tell me, how was recording your audiobook with me?
I'm glad you asked. Personally, I could not have imagined a more perfect person or atmosphere in which to do this. It's like on the back of what Bryce just shared with us, it is about going with the flow. And it's interesting that Deb at Disruptive Publishing said when we were talking about we're prepping ourselves for the audio book, and Deborah emailed me back or emailed us back and said, are you using Simone? And that's perfect example, because that's how the mother works. You don't have to go, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Life just presents you with the direction. So what happened was we basically explored, you know, with another friend who basically does voiceovers and stuff like that. We initially explored doing it ourselves. And we do have this sort of equipment, which has been absolutely phenomenal in terms of me being able to practice and be prepared to go in here.
Yeah.
But your name and this business, it just sat there. And what we were allowed to explore was, is it actually practical or doable for us to do it in his home without something like this?
The sound booth.
And we both talked it over and realized that it's not doable. It's not possible. And all the time you're sitting there just waiting for us to go, life flow, life flow, life flow. There's our direction. And then Brian contacted you, and here we are.
Yeah.
And so not only can I thank you, but really, you know, everybody who ever listens to this audiobook has to know that, to use Brian's word, the mother, the universe, said you're the person that needs to be the one to do this. Just as I've told Deborah, Brian, I've talked about this so many times too, that everybody who's involved in any way in bringing this wisdom to the world has been chosen by the goddess. You're the ones.
How many times did you reduce me to tears in this journey?
It's very common. Very, very common. Reading the writings or
being in the energies of it.
Being in the energy or having the writings being read to you, it's like, it opens your heart. And when you open your heart, the tears flow.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful experience.
Yeah. We're very blessed. Incredibly blessed. Like, I have been recording the podcast with you guys today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where can people reach out and talk to you, or you?
They can always email us at the
contact information will be on the website.
Yeah.
Okay, and the website is
thewritings.au.
Guys, thanks so much for being on my podcast today.
Thank you for having us.
You're
Thanks
awesome.
for having us.
You are too.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining the Simone Feiler Podcast.
What's your story?
Contact Simone for a chat at brisbaneaudiobookproduction.com.